In a small, peaceful African village called Aduro, lived a young man named Kofi. He was known for his intelligence, kindness, and bravery, though many in the village underestimated him due to his quiet demeanor. One day, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the red earth, a mysterious old man appeared at the edge of the village. He was dressed in tattered clothes and leaned heavily on a walking stick. The village chief, Nana Asare, welcomed the stranger to the evening fire. The old man introduced himself as Kwabena, a traveler from a distant land. He spoke of wondrous things he had seen, but soon turned the conversation to a challenge. "I have seen many men who claim to be brave and wise, but few truly are," Kwabena said with a sly smile. "I offer a test. Whoever passes 3 trials of wit and courage shall receive a reward beyond their wildest dreams." The villagers, curious and eager to prove themselves, murmured among themselves. Yet it was Kofi, unnoticed in the crowd, who felt the stirrings of destiny. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. "I accept your challenge," Kofi said, his voice calm but firm. The old man's eyes sparkled. "Very well, young one. The first trial begins at dawn." At the break of dawn, Kofi followed Kwabena into the forest of echoes, a thick, dark forest that few dared enter. It was said that the forest was alive, its trees whispering secrets, and those who wandered in without purpose could lose their way forever. For your first trial, you must find the golden calabash, hidden deep within the forest. But be warned, nothing in this forest is as it seems, the old man said before disappearing into the trees. Kofi ventured into the forest, carefully listening to the whispers of the wind and the rustling leaves. As he walked deeper, the trees seemed to shift, and paths that appeared straight moments before now twisted into spirals. Suddenly, he heard his mother's voice calling him. "Kofi, come back. You don't belong here." Startled, he spun around, but no one was there. Then his father's voice echoed through the trees, warning him of danger. Kofi stopped and remembered what Kwabena had said, nothing was as it seemed. Realizing that the forest was trying to deceive him, he pressed on, ignoring the voices. Hours later, exhausted but determined, Kofi stumbled upon a small clearing where the golden calabash lay in plain sight. But as he reached out to grab it, the ground beneath him began to tremble. The calabash split into 2, and out sprang a ferocious lion. The beast lunged at Kofi, its golden mane shimmering in the light. Thinking quickly, Kofi picked up a large stick and swung it with all his might, striking the lion. But to his surprise, the lion vanished, and in its place, the real golden calabash appeared. The forest fell silent. Kofi returned to the village with the calabash, but Kwabena only nodded. "You've passed the first trial, but the second will be much harder." For the second trial, Kwabena led Kofi to the River of Mirrors, a river so clear that its surface reflected everything around it with perfect accuracy. The old man explained, "You must cross this river, but you can only step on the reflections of the stones beneath the water. One wrong step, and you will be swallowed by the river forever." Kofi looked at the water. It seemed impossible to distinguish the real stones from their reflections, as the shimmering surface played tricks on his eyes. He sat by the riverbank, watching closely as the stones shimmered in the water. Then, an idea struck him. He gathered a handful of pebbles and threw them into the river. As they splashed, the ripples distorted the reflections. Kofi carefully observed which stones remained solid and which were mere illusions. Using this method, he stepped cautiously, testing each stone before placing his full weight on it. Halfway across, the river's surface stilled once again, and the stones became indistinguishable. Kofi's heart raced, but just then, a gust of wind blew through the trees, causing the water to ripple once more. Kofi followed the distorted stones and crossed the river safely. Kwabena was waiting on the other side, smiling. "You are clever, young Kofi. But your final trial will test more than your wit, it will test your heart. For the third and final trial, Kwabena took Kofi to the foot of the Mountain of Shadows, the tallest peak in the land, where the sun rarely touched the ground. The path to the top was treacherous, filled with jagged rocks and dangerous creatures that roamed the shadows. The final test is simple, Kwabena said. Climb to the peak and retrieve the Stone of Destiny. But beware, the mountain will prey on your fears and deepest desires. Kofi began his ascent, the shadows around him growing darker and colder with each step. As he climbed higher, strange figures began to emerge from the shadows, his long-lost friends, family members, even his first love, all calling him back. "Stay with us, Kofi. You don't need to go any further," they whispered. For a moment, Kofi felt the pull of his heartstrings. The familiar faces, the warmth of their voices, made him hesitate. But he remembered Kwabena's warning. These were not real, they were only illusions meant to test him. Pushing forward, Kofi ignored the voices, battling the wind and the cold as he neared the peak. At the very top, the Stone of Destiny sat on a pedestal, glowing faintly in the dark. But as Kofi reached out to grab it, the ground beneath him crumbled. He was falling, plummeting toward the darkness below. But just as the shadows closed in, a hand grabbed his wrist. It was Kwabena, pulling him back to safety. "You've passed the final test," the old man said. Back in the village, the people celebrated Kofi's return, amazed that he had completed the 3 impossible trials. But Kofi was curious. "What is my reward, old man?" he asked. Kwabena smiled mysteriously. "The true reward was never gold or riches, young one. It was the wisdom and strength you've gained through these trials. You now understand that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the will to overcome it. You see that the world is filled with illusions, and the greatest challenge is to see things as they truly are." As Kofi nodded, understanding dawning in his heart, Kwabena vanished into the night, leaving only the echoes of his laughter in the air. From that day on, Kofi was no longer seen as the quiet boy of the village but as a wise and courageous man. And the tale of Kofi and his trials would be told for generations to come, a story of wit, courage, and the strength to face one's deepest fears.